Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to Odd Marshall and Blind Melon guitarists Roger Stevens and Christopher Thorn. Obstacles are opportunities. Just ask Odd Marshall. When the Ontario singer-songwriter failed to recruit the prominent Canadian producer he wanted for his new album Seconds, his plan B was even more ambitious. He hired two of his teenage rock heroes, Stevens and Thorn, and that was clearly the right move. Recorded in Thorn's Fireside studios in Joshua Tree with a stellar crew of session players, Seconds is a superb slice of dusty California desert rock, with echoes of everyone from Beck and Jackson Browne to Little Feat. And it's just the latest chapter in Marshall's wild life story, which includes everything from filmmaking stints to life-changing truck rollovers. Just before the album arrived, Marshall, Stevens, and Thorn convened on Zoom to discuss making the record, songwriting, his next move, some upcoming Blind Melon live releases, and tons more. Enjoy. Well, all right, guys, so we're here to talk about Marshall's new album, Seconds, which is coming out later this week, and obviously a big deal for him, but it's kind of a big deal for the two of you, I think, too, because unless the internet is lying to me, and what are the chances of that, it's kind of the first thing you two have done together outside of Blind Melon, correct?
I know I
Yeah.
had to think about that too. I think so. Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
I mean,
true? Is that true, Christopher? It's pretty close to true.
it's close to true.
Pretty
You
Um,
played
close to true is good enough for
you,
me.
you played
I
on the
can't
Danny
think of
Clinch.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
The
right.
Danny
So,
Clinch record is the
in
other
light of
record
that,
that
how is
that you
everybody
played.
feeling about this album? Are we excited? Are we anxious? Are we just waiting for the world to hear this thing, or did we have to pry it out of your hands, or what?
Well, it's been about a year, right, guys? I can't believe it, but yeah, it was about this
What?
time last year we were down in Joshua Tree. So,
Yeah.
and add 6 months ahead of that when Christopher and I started talking, and um, it all
Yep.
came together fairly quickly. I think was like Christopher and I were on the phone, and then it was just a matter of kind of planning, and I kept saying, "Yeah, it's going to happen." It was all kind of depending on me getting my shit together and that, and
And was that something that was not necessarily a given? Is that what you're saying?
well, no, I mean, getting to the States is one issue, and
Right.
originally it was going to be an EP. That was the original project, but I realized, you know, go all that way and to work with these guys to just do an EP does not, um,
Sure. No, that makes sense.
doesn't
Yeah.
legitimize it enough. I wanted to do the real
It's
thing. I
beneath
didn't
us,
want
frankly. It would be beneath
exactly.
us.
Thank you, Rogers.
We don't do EPs.
So did you have all the material then? Did you just like pull songs that you had already written out of the vault, or did you set about writing a whole bunch of stuff in a flurry to turn this from an EP into an album?
Well, no, I wouldn't say I was writing deliberately for it. I was definitely choosing the songs. Originally, it was going to be the four songs I had in mind were very rock guitar driven. And then when these guys were on board, there was a couple more I found. Like Out of Here was the first single on this album, and I literally wrote that riff
Right.
in high school. For the band I was in, and I didn't write the words until a few years later, but it was directly inspired by me listening to uh, Blind Melon at the time as a teenager on my back porch. So for me to record that 20 years later with the guys, it was incredible. But yeah, so there was some of those songs that hadn't really fit on the previous album, Sand and Glue,
Mhm.
and then um, a couple other songs just kind of came out because part of my journey is just this huge hiatus I took. I couldn't quite figure out the music business or whether I wanted to do it or not, and it wasn't working out on MySpace or whatever the hell was happening back then, and um,
Well,
so I
yeah, I
kind
mean,
of
I have to
gave
say
up.
your story it reads like a movie or a novel or quite frankly a fantastic lie. You know?
Well,
Yeah, I
well,
couldn't tell if he was full of shit. I went and had breakfast with him one day in Joshua Tree, and he told me a bunch of stuff about it. So I said, "Man, that's crazy. You've done a lot of stuff."
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
mean,
that.
we don't have time for you to tell the whole story because we'd be here all day. But if you can sort of give people, you know, a quick overview of your path to music and then away from music and then back to music, that would be great.
Well, sure. It's kind of weird for me to be talking too much with these two other guys on the line.
We'll get to
Actually,
them. Don't worry.
Especially
just
when
go,
you talk about the things you did in Hamburg. I mean,
right.
really.
Well,
No, no, no. Rogers, that was between you and me. No, I'm just kidding. But with
Um,
actually, I remember telling a story to Christopher about this one chance meeting I had with, just to put this all in context, I had this one chance meeting with Ronnie Wood of the Rolling Stones. And as I'm telling this story, I realize I'm looking at Christopher and I'm like, I'm talking about one chance fan encounter, and this guy toured with them, right? You guys, what was your tour with the Rolling Stones? Was that the
Yeah. Yeah, we
what
toured
tour
with
was
them in
that?
like 93, 94, something like that. We did a bunch of dates with
94.
them.
94.
Yes.
They were on the Voodoo
Voodoo
Lounge tour,
Lounge, yeah.
That's right.
and they
So I mean,
had,
yeah,
yeah, like a
I have a
cobra
few.
stage.
Sorry, Roger, say that again.
They had a cobra sort of mechanism,
Right.
on stage.
Didn't
It was
it
like,
spit fire or something too? Or I can't remember.
probably.
Yeah,
I think
Probably, yeah,
it
exactly.
would be disappointing if it didn't.
Yeah,
You know what I
totally,
mean?
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, Marshall, you spent a lot of years as a filmmaker. You've written a bunch of novels. You know, you've had this. I mean, you've been a dishwasher. You've had like a billion different jobs in a billion different places, and you've traveled the world. It's just kind of how did this all happen to you? Were you just a guy who's been continually restless and
Yeah,
has to keep moving
definitely.
continually your whole life?
I'd say yes to the restlessness. And music. I knew I wasn't as good as a lot of other people. There's some people like this. 15 years ago, this whole era of like American Idol things and I knew I wasn't like that, and just kind of. But that didn't really there kind of wasn't room for I felt like, because I wasn't really, I still not a standout really singer or anything like that, but now it's just sort of a I have to do it, so this is what I do. But the traveling and that, I come by that honestly. I think just my dad, in 1966, uh, worked on a Norwegian ship over to England, and drove a Jeep across the Sahara, worked on an oil rig off the coast of Cameroon. So, climbed Kilimanjaro and ended up shearing sheep in New Zealand. So a lot of that stuff is, I felt there's sort of a duty to kind of make my own list of things to do. But,
Mm. It's all about
just
dad,
to,
is it?
I
I
just want to
well,
say, can I just say, like, setting
Yeah,
aside
yeah,
what he just said about his musicality, which is nonsense.
yeah.
I think, I
Humble.
mean,
Yeah.
Mark is a real songwriter,
Yes.
and I think both Christopher and I heard that, and I mean, Christopher obviously heard it right away because he spoke with him first, and he called me and said, "Do you want to do this?" And I don't think that either of us would have done this if we didn't think it was of quality
Right.
to begin
Was it
Exactly.
with.
was it
Right.
What
just
he started with,
I mean, you say he was a real
in terms of
songwriter.
his voice
Mhm.
and the way he delivers his songs, I totally believe him. So, and that's all that matters. It's really nothing else is important. So that's my
And
take on it.
great songs never go out of fashion. A great songs are
Right.
great songs. So regardless of what's happening on the charts or on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, great songs never go out of fashion. So
Yeah,
that's what I
and the
know.
sound of this album is very timeless. It is not trendy or TikTokable or reaching
mhm.
for bandwagons or any of that other stuff. I mean, depending on the mood I'm in or when I listen to it and what song I'm listening to, some of them to me are have a very 70s vibe. Some even have a little 60s in them. Then there's 80s. There's a bunch of things it reminds me of, but you really can't say it's aiming to fit into any particular box.
It's just what
That must,
happened. That's what
yeah,
happened. I mean, it's a
Okay.
live recording for the most part, and that's just
Yeah.
the way it sounded. It's four musicians, five musicians, you know, including Mark singing. That just that was it. That's what it sounded like when you got those people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
And
it.
don't.
yeah, and it
There's
has
no
that
effort
live.
to sound like
Yeah.
to stick any sort of thing on it, but you get what you get when you hire these two.
Yeah, and it
Hmm.
does have that live feel to it, though. Too, it does feel like. I mean, these songs to me don't seem especially produced, which is not to say that they don't sound great, but they sound more like they were just recorded, captured, as it were, on the fly.
Right there, about
We
10
did
feet
actually
away
track.
from where Chris was sitting.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We did track. We tracked all together at the same time for that feeling, including
In that
Mark
room.
singing. Yeah, in this room actually. So yeah, it
Yeah,
feels
Can
that
you
way
show the
because
room? Can you flip the camera, Christopher?
yeah, I can. Absolutely.
Right.
Watch this. Little studio tour. Stand by.
yeah, this is
It's a magic
There we
space.
go. So we were over here. Here, I'll show you the outside real quick too while I'm here. Oh my God, I can't even see my screen. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
There's outside. Woo, that's bright out there. But yeah, and
Hey,
here's
get
just
out of
the
the
tracking
sun,
room
dude.
over
You're a vampire. You'll burn right up.
here.
no,
There's the other.
Christopher's really built an incredible place there. All these buildings that what 35 acres, right, Christopher?
Yeah, uh-huh. 35 acres here out here.
About five buildings and
Yep, five buildings. Compound, recording compound.
I don't know. Compound in the desert gives off some other vibes.
Yeah,
Well, he's
man.
got
right.
that too. Whatever
Okay, all
interests
right.
him. Yeah.
What is it though about Joshua Tree? Because it seems to me that it's got that sort of, like Woodstock, New York was in the '60s. It just seems to be this magnet for artists and musicians. And I mean, I would imagine you could walk out your front door and throw a rock and hit three musicians in the head.
At
Yeah, matter
least.
of fact, my buddy Dave Ketching has a studio called Rancho de la Luna, and he was really the first person to come out here and start making records and all those amazing Queens of Stone Age
Yeah.
records and lots of great records. So there's a real scene out here. There's quite a few recording studios. There's at least five or six recording studios. Dave and I are neighbors, so we literally have two recording studios just right here alone. And yeah, there's something about the space and the environment in Joshua Tree does lend itself to, for me, what the way I describe it is I can hear myself better out here in the desert, and my antenna is sharper out here. I lived in LA for many, many
I
years.
love it. I love coming
Yeah,
to
you
the
can hear
place. I
yourself.
love coming to Christopher's studio. It's like a great vibe. It's perfect for what Mark
Yeah,
wanted to do.
Right. Well, tell
yeah,
tell us a little bit
it's an
about that,
escape.
Mark or Marshall or whatever, whichever one you want to use. What it was like to,
Call
you
him
cold
I.
call this guy, and he says, "Yeah, sure, come on out." And then, as you say, it took a while, but eventually, one day, you're sitting in a room with these guys recording. Talk to me about
Yeah.
how that experience felt for you.
Well, just a bit of context. I live in a cabin, with 85 acres to myself. That going back to my dad, it would have been his retirement place, but when he passed away, it's been kind of just sitting there. And with the pandemic, I moved up there and I haven't left, and that's kind of what allowed me to get back into music, just with the time and that. And I remember I had to snowshoe 45 minutes. No, actually, the day I was ready to leave to go get the snow had fallen off my roof
Hmm.
and caved in, so I couldn't open the front door. So I had to crawl out a window, dig myself out, and then snowshoe for 45 minutes to get to my truck, to get to the airport, to get to the flight, to get to this desert. And so, in a lot of ways, it was just being on another planet, which really, to me, that's what I remember when I hear these songs and when um, it's not just the eight songs in that room with the guys, it's being on this other planet making it's the whole experience for me. So that's really what I think Christopher's creating there, and that's I think what any artist so they can focus on what they're doing. They can put the world wherever they're coming from, however cold it may be or whatever, and just focus on on what on the songs, and that was the incredible experience for me, was just being somewhere um, completely removed from my day to day.
Was there a lot of
It's one of those
discussion
rare places.
beforehand
Yeah.
in terms of a vibe you were going for or what you wanted to do, or were you all just sort of on the same page and could sit down and plug in and just start to play?
Well, it was Christopher and I in the beginning with just demos in that, and nothing special, just kind of off the phone demos at the kitchen table. But we were talking immediately about J.J. Cale in the 1970s, and of course I've said to the most what I remember most about those Blind Melon things albums are of course Shannon Hoon gets a lot of the spotlight, deservedly, but at the same time, I remember those albums so much. The guitar riffs and the guitar phrases and that speak so clearly. Those are ingrained in my head almost, as much as the lyrics or um, the melodies in that. So
Did,
that's what
did
I
you
was
hear them
chasing.
on your songs? Like when you had these songs and would, hear them in your head, did you kind of imagine their guitars on them? Was that part of it for you?
I mean, I didn't know exactly what they were going to play, but we'd leave what Christopher called it, a two for nothing. Yeah, Rogers will do something here. And I remember the first take of what I think it was the first song or maybe the second song, but my chords, my songs in this new iteration of me are very basic. There's some of them are just two chord things. Out of here is not. It's a little more complex, a little trying too hard. But that was the teenager in me. But this song called Somebody New is literally just E minor and A, and it's just all about the feel. And I remember playing that, and it's a very simple song. And then when we did that two for nothing break, Rogers jumped in with this phrase, and I think we probably blew that take just because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And to be sitting between these two guys, not to give these guys too much praise, but yeah, it was totally.
No, keep
It,
going, Mark. We got plenty of
it,
time. We got plenty
That's
of
not
time. Keep going.
possible. It's not possible,
Plenty
Mark.
of
Keep going.
time.
but yeah, it
Yeah,
totally
take your
knocked me
time.
back. It totally knocked me back, and it was um, whatever. So we did an extra take on that song, but no, cool. I mean, that was that's exactly what we wanted. We talked about um, getting those guitars, and uh,
Hmm.
that's we I knew exactly who to go to, and we got the job done. Well, actually, Christopher brought in well, the whole band actually, but he brought in Denny Weston Jr. and John Osmond, our local guys there, and
Amazing.
they've both
That made everything perfect, by the
yeah,
way.
Oh, no.
I
they
mean,
both look the
because
same, and they play together a
well,
lot
just
too.
I mean,
Yeah,
those guys
yeah,
are for real, and
Yeah.
and when that happens in the rhythm section, it really makes what Christopher and I are doing possible. Like it wouldn't we can't do that what we
Totally
would do
true.
normally without
Yeah.
that. And
mm,
those guys,
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
and they're different than like, Blind Melon, but man, both of them were
Yeah.
so locked in. That was such a joy. That was one of the best studio experiences I've had in a long, long, long time.
Well, and you
Just
can
Yeah,
again, you
vibe
great.
can
is
hear that in
everything.
the music and the joy, and I agree with Mark that the guitar work is just exceptional on this album. There are times when it just immediately, he stops singing and those guitars kick in, and bam, you're right there. I mean, whoever's playing all the slide, it's like I hear some Zoot Horn Rollo in there, and my compliments on that. Um, is this? Do you guys have some sort of a? I mean, is it just the fact that you've worked together for so long that you kind of know what the other one's gonna do and how to work together and around each other? Can you kind of converse musically in that way?
That's really the
Simple
only
as
way
that.
we talk. We usually don't
Okay.
address each other directly, Rogers and I. We only do it
I
through
haven't
the
looked into
guitar
your
work.
eyes, and I appreciate you wearing the glasses because I don't want to, you know, um, it's so long. No, yeah, I mean,
It's
it
a
happened from
magical
the
thing.
very beginning.
Yeah,
Hmm?
it happened from the very beginning. And it's Roger's the only guy I play that way. And it's not that I know what he's going to play. It's just that I'm always just listening with one ear, depending on what he's playing. And I'm just always trying to like compliment it. And it just kind of goes back and forth like that, And it happened from day one, like you said.
Right.
I
But
think
it's
I think
probably been
you
a
know
while since
just
you played together, right? I mean, is it just
well
like
no
getting back on
we've
the
been
bike?
touring we've done
Yeah, we
shows over
played.
the
Hmm.
years
Yeah,
and you know lots of stuff like but
Right.
uh with you know with the reason why I mean it's hard to say why but it was definitely like a just a on a very fundamental level a chemistry thing that we
Hmm.
intuitively figured out early on and I think you know for me I'd only really been playing the guitar about 4 years when we started the band.
Wow.
Wasn't
yeah,
that
me too.
long, you know. And Christopher as well. I mean, we were young, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, we still were developed, and we kind of like figured out a little more together, as you know, along the way. And like you're accounting for that, and you know, like at times it's competitive, even, but like which was good in a
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
it just it but it settled into like just because I like two guitar bands. I love the Stones, you know. I loved Guns N' Roses in this way, you know, on their, you know, on that their first record because the way the guitars, you know, they didn't do the same thing, right?
Right.
And
Sure.
so it wasn't, you know, when I go see a band and I see a lineup of dudes, you know, playing the same bar chord all
Right.
across the stage, I'm like, that's how you know. That's not for me.
Yeah, it's not my
So
thing. Yeah.
So what did the two of you see your job as or your role in terms of, putting these songs on tape and getting it all together? What was your kind of mandate, as it were?
I mean, you're always there just to serve the song. I mean, that's really
Hmm.
that's where it starts. You're just there to serve the song. It's you're not there to just kind of show how good of a guitar player you are. And I think
Right.
because of our chemistry, Rogers and I, just do that automatically. There's times when you got to stay out of the way, and it was always about the vocal and the songs to me. As a producer, that's especially with someone like Mark. I mean, that's everything. Like the song, that you're there to serve the song.
that
Hmm.
you know, for me, like Christopher had you know double duties because you know he's producing the record and he
Right.
has obligations on the broader scale. But it's like what like for me, it's the dream scenario to 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 be you know brought in to play guitar sort of impulsively after hearing the songs
Mhm.
only a few times because that's the way I
Yeah,
like to have you know. And
yeah.
just you know, and that's what Mark, you know, I heard I had acoustic guitar and Mark's voice, you know, and that
Hmm.
was the map. And if I hear that, you know, and just to be able to just attack that problem is a fucking dream. You know, if I had a bunch, if it was like my band and I had to worry about, you know, a bunch of other stuff, maybe it's not as there's pressure and there's other concerns. But for me, I love this scenario.
And Mark, tell me about, as you talked about, to sitting between these two guys and listening to them play. And I would think that, after the prep and getting it all together and climbing out your window and firing up the Huskies and getting to the desert and all that, those first mixes when you guys tracked a couple of things and then, you went on the other side of the desk there to listen to them. What was, can you remember the feeling of hearing that stuff coming through the speakers for the first time?
Yeah, and I've in past stuff I've recorded, I think on any project, when you're in it, when you're there and you're living it, you
Right.
immediately fall in love with the music, and it kind of always feels like every project you're working on feels feels great. So I was a little hesitant uh to love it because when you're in the moment, you really want to make sure are we just in love with the moment, or do we actually,
Right.
is the song as best it can be? And so I knew I had to dial back the excitement or the adrenaline or whatever, and really try to assess it. And I think I have, it's like we're a year later and I have no regrets. Actually,
Hmm.
one thing we did revisit one song, Run, the first track. That
Hmm.
was the only one that um, Christopher and I were talking, and that was the only one we thought, let's just try that one again, and we got it back, and um, just created a different approach on that. So usually, you fall in love with what you're doing right away, and it's hard to be judgmental on there.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we captured that moment and readjusted on that one, and um, that's it. I mean, I'm learning that what you record, you can record a song endlessly or in different ways, count infinite different ways. But how you capture it right then, you really only have one chance to knock it down, to lay it down, and um, well, sorry, a second chance, I guess, if you catch it within that week that you're all there. But
Right.
but yeah, so we backed
You
up
know
on
what?
one song and went for a little more J.J. Cale approach, I think, and but
Did you
uh,
ever finish the other version? Did
no,
you
that's
like?
yeah, that's for the what the
Well, I'm saying that
anniversary.
was good too.
Box set.
Yeah.
That's for the box set. No, it's
Yeah.
cool. And, and Run was, I believe Run was the very first song we started in the session. And back to what Mark was saying about sort of the excitement, and you're just, oh, you're in love, you're in a room with guys, and it's your first day, and
Yeah.
sometimes you go back and readdress those first couple songs you hit that first day because of what Mark was talking about,
Right.
where
You
you're just
figure out a bunch
like,
of stuff doing the rest of it, and then you're
Mhm.
like,
yeah,
oh wow, we
and
could do
you
that.
come
Yeah, totally makes sense.
and you come back
And
around,
just
and the version I was just gonna say the version we did is cool, um, but the truth is the night before I had played drums on that song and had a different feel, and then when Denny walked in, we kind of went with his feel. Ultimately, once we decided, the song wasn't all the way there, I think I went back and showed Mark my original drum thing that I just was getting drum sounds, but I had a feel for it, and then I used a
mm.
drum machine just to push it towards the JJ Cale vibe. And then once that happened, the song just really kind of came together. And that was one of my favorite songs. So I just wanted to make sure we got that one right. So I feel
And
like we got it
I
right now.
think yeah, I know. I think we did too. And the there's kind of a thing where once you're 4 or 5 songs into the album, um, you realize which song is going to be what on the album, which song's the story song, which song's the rocker song. And Run to me is just the intro. It's the um, which maybe Out of Here um, kind of finalizes the way Out of Here kind of really goes through the roof for the end of that song. Um, but once you kind of have maybe a broader picture of what the album's going to be, kind of 4 or 5 days into it, you can maybe take a step back and take that choice and say, wait a minute, uh, we could back up on that song or just take a different approach. And I
I,
mean,
I want to I want to say something about this because about you, Mark, and like Mark, he had this whole thing, like the whole record was really very specifically, I think, a narrative laid out in his head from beginning to end, to the point where, I mean, Mark knew exactly what he wanted to do. And fine, we're here to facilitate that plan. So, I mean, we cut the record in order. Am I right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Okay.
don't know. I
like
don't know why.
it was like, here's the order of the songs, and we're gonna cut this fucking thing in order, and when it's done, it's done. And I was like, well, that is like kind of I've never done that before. I
No,
was very impressed by how well considered every aspect of this is. Like, and I really think it shows it's important point to make is that it's an album. That
Yeah,
old concept. It's like when I heard it and I think it's of the highest quality, but it's it plays like an album. It's there's no like obvious inroad song to it. You have to listen to the whole thing and get in your car. It's that kind of record. I mean, it really does feel like a throwback in that sense, but it feels fresh now though. At the same time, to me,
tell me a
I don't
little more
know.
about that, Mark, because I mean, that narrative concept to the album. Because when I listen to it, I mean, there are obviously a lot of songs about restlessness and rootlessness and running and escape, and that seems to be sort of the overall theme of the album, being one of escape and motion and
Yeah.
this desire to move.
Yeah, I guess, well, the title of the album is Seconds, and that's kind of has to do with like second chances, I thought. And um, a big part of that is, just from starting over so many times and things like that is, um, and that's what a lot of these songs are about, and they're all taken, so many different eras of my life. When I think of the album, which no one would get from listening to it, but I remember writing that first song, or Out of Here. I remember writing that one as a teenager. I remember On My Way was after a breakup with a girl in New York, and um, Hold Me Together was about a different girl in England. So there's so much that's not even in the lyrics that for me is speaks to me personally more than really it can. You'd have to be too literal, I guess, if it were to tell the story. But
Mhm.
um,
Do
I
you
don't know.
think
It's
of it
tough to
as your
say.
life story to some degree, in a way?
I look at it like that, but
Hmm.
you know, I can't expect a listener to pull that out of it. I like
Yeah, you
with
can.
Out of Here
That's
is
the
a
trick.
song.
That's the
Yeah,
songwriter's trick,
Right.
is taking something that's actually meaningful to you, which I believe, Mark. That's when I say I believe him. This is what it is. He's telling something that's true about himself, but he's telling it in sort of a universal terms.
Right.
Now there are specific details in there, but when you make it the universal, then more people in the universe are going to
Hmm.
interpret it and apply it to their own situation. And that's what he's aces on. So and I think it's a key quality in
well,
in a real
case in point,
song.
when to well, thank you, Rogers. But the like Out of Here, I think is a good example of that, of where even I'm not really the writer anymore because I wrote it when I was 17. And it's pretty broad lyrics talking about a small town, uh, you know, um, but it translates now to just more of um, an escape song that works well on the road. And someone said it could be a divorce anthem, which would, because it's
Yeah.
about me breaking up with that small town. And so now I can apply it to any kind of different, quitting a job,
Right.
breaking up, moving away, something like that. And
Any of the
that's what I
women
think.
who dumped you could use that as their exit song.
Sure.
Yeah.
Leaving LA and setting up a compound in the desert. Anything,
Yeah.
right?
I ran away for sure.
Uh-huh. So,
Yeah.
do you think there are things that you, from this experience, Mark, that you will take away that will change you as a songwriter, or in the way you make records, or what kind of longer term effect do you think this might have on you artistically?
Um, I don't know how to answer that. I'll admit I was definitely nervous. I was definitely punching above my weight with the talent involved. But it was such a great experience to me and testament to the guys and how, um, uh, they treated me as an equal in the room in that. It wasn't, so. My big question is why did I stop for how much I'm enjoying music now and the process of writing and recording. I don't know what the hell I was thinking to not play my guitar for 10 years. It's so
You just gather material.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, but
It
yeah,
all led here, right? Yeah. So,
yeah, it's so it's
I think I think it comes down to just trusting yourself, Mark. I remember that first day when we started tracking. You were like, "Hey, can I tell the guys?" I was like, "Yes, of course you can tell the guys how you feel or what an idea you have." You know what I mean? It was more
yeah,
like I think Mark had to learn just to trust himself, and hopefully we created a space for him to feel that way immediately.
totally.
But I remember that was like the first few hours. You're like, "Oh," and I was like, "No, man, we're here for you. You
Yeah.
I
tell us
have
what."
no, yeah, I have no doubt if you become very successful, Mark, that you'll become a complete fucking dictator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could see
well,
that.
You know what you want. You know what you want.
yeah.
You do,
give me
which
an
is
inch, I'll
great.
take a mile. Yeah.
I love working with people who know what they want. It makes my job a lot easier. It's much harder when somebody doesn't have a vision. Like Mark really thought out this record, you know what I mean? Like just for the fact that we recorded in, he already knew the sequence. He knew what the storyline, he knew what the movie was before he showed up. And
Right.
I like that. For me, that makes my job a lot easier when somebody
Right.
actually has a vision
Yeah,
for it.
very
No,
inspiring. Yeah.
But do
I
you feel
think,
more confident, Mark, now than you were, going in?
yeah, definitely. The only thing maybe I'll in hindsight, if God forbid one of these songs didn't work out, we wouldn't have had an album. So that's maybe I'll maybe give myself a little more room in which song don't we like or whatever. But I mean, sorry, not that any of these I don't like, but if one of them didn't work out, we would have been short. So that's one thing. Maybe next time I'll just come in with more songs. But that's just silly to say, I think, because these were the songs I had in mind with the guys, and there's a vibe when you're trying to create an album with so you kind of pick the ones that I've got a lot of one of the things in my songwriting process right now is I'm writing a lot of songs I don't like or songs that don't like that wouldn't fit on an album, I think, or
Okay.
I don't know what album they'll fit on or whatever. So,
Uh-huh.
but I'm still following through with them. I'm still finishing. So I've got a lot of songs that are, um, I don't know, for someone else or something. But with this one, I was confident, and that's only because I had so much time to think about it. Which songs do you want to play with these guys? And um, I like the number eight. Eight songs is, I think, save some for the next one, and eight's a good digestible number, I think. But
Mark, when it comes to songwriting, my theory, which I've been saying for a long time, is you have to write the bad ones to get to the good ones.
yeah,
You don't get to just get the good ones. You got to write the
yeah.
bad ones. You got to finish them, a bridge. You got to get them all the way to the finish line. And then that's a bad one. If that's a bad one, that's okay because that gets you to the good one. So
You
Yeah,
got to
Yeah,
show your
absolutely.
it's
children,
like pulling
right?
out your baby teeth, you got to get them out.
Well, the
exactly.
I for some reason in my first iteration, I hated playing live. Playing live was too important, and people were never listening as intently as I wanted them to listen, and they didn't get the changes that I was working on or something. So it was I
That's
put too much
normal though,
pressure
where
on.
honestly, you had some elite people in the room. It's like that's the difference maker right there. It's like when you're working with musicians, just don't settle for anybody who's not fucking truly great.
Cool. No, I
It's
mean
like
that's
you'll be unhappy.
yeah. No, there's no going back now. So there's I'm not um, ashamed of a two chord song anymore because it's all about the vibe you create in the room and like one of the songs. you know, there wasn't much to say, but we were just like, what was just more soupy or something. Sorry, not soupy as in Blind Melon soupy, but soupy as in how to start. One of the songs we were crafting the intro, and you know, I'm not worried about a two chord song. It depends on what we put on it to make it to create the vibe. So that's what's changed in me is that don't be ashamed of what you write and um, a good song will find its way out eventually. A good song will um, uh, find its place, and some of the songs you don't like at first, you like a year later, or for some. Actually, here's a good point. I wrote this song. I play a lot of these breweries up here in the last year, just a couple years, just kind of getting started, just learning to play again, and no calluses on my fingers and that. So I've been playing breweries and things like that, and these 3 hour sets forces you to write songs and fill 3 hours of original. I only have originals, so you got to come up with 50 songs. And anyway, I wrote this one song. It was just complete bullshit in the fact that it was just written on these two chords that had kind of a sound sad feel, and uh, and it was just kind of like the lyrics are, and then she was gone kind of thing. The refrain in the song, and so I wrote this song, and the next time I played it, this I met this French girl in Bruce Peninsula, Canada, who was living in Singapore uh, from France, meeting up with a group of friends, and it was just the amount of things that happened for us to meet was incredible. And then she was gone. She went back to Singapore, and so the song became about her. And then a month later, I was playing it, and with that same refrain, and then she was gone. I noticed this guy Doug at the bar with his dog was getting a little emotional, or he was trying to hide it anyway. As I kept saying, and then she was gone, and I started to think, well, maybe this song is for him. It's about a wife that recently passed or something like that. And so now I think about this guy Doug and his wife or not wife or I don't know what, but so you never really know what a song is about, and a song it can have its own evolution and um, I don't know. That's sort of what I'm learning, and trying not to be too critical about what songs I like or don't like. It's more about what songs fit in on what album. And these 8 songs I think fit really well with this album because they have that drive or that sort of um anger, not anger, but like sorting through some
Energy.
shit. A lot of these songs, we're dealing with stuff. We're on my way, we're out of here, all and but
Yeah, Mark's
anyway,
making
that's
movies. He doesn't know that he's making records. He's making movies.
right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a
And if I had
script,
the
and
budget, I'd make
he's
more
got a
videos.
script, and he ends up with an album.
Yeah.
Yes. And an album
That's
that's going to
true.
be
I did
hard to
write
top.
I wrote a screenplay called Portrait of a Failed Musician. And, the, like I went to film school, so the film stuff isn't completely out of left field or anything, but I've been writing all these screenplays and trying to get money, and it's just kind of threw my hands up. Like a micro budget film costs $250,000. And so you keep designing your screenplays to what can I shoot with what I have around me. And the only thing I really had it was in my back pocket with these songs that I'd written 10 years ago. And so I wrote this script called Portrait of a Failed Musician. And that got me playing my guitar again too. So, uh, yeah, so it's true this, yeah, some movies definitely have a big influence on me, but it's all about, I think, telling a story and, um, yeah.
Yeah, and you've made an album that I think is going to be very hard for you to top next time out, which is a good
Okay,
challenge.
pressure's on. Pressure's
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Well,
so what's
I
what's next, Christopher and Rogers? What is happening with you guys? Because I mean I know you've done some Blind Melon gigs and you've had the occasional reunion and things, and I think it must be kind of nice that in recent years, for a band that existed relatively briefly on the scene, that lately you've not only had kind of I think a critical reassessment, but I mean, there's been a real sort of the band still is beloved by people. You could have easily kind of vanished into a footnote, and you're not. That must be especially gratifying. So then, how do you carry that forward and kind of deal with that legacy and the torch and the responsibility and all that?
Well, you just milk it for everything you can. Uh, no,
Now, there's the
well,
clip. That's all. I'll
I'll
just cut
say,
it to that. And
I'll say this. It's, just in terms of what that means to us, and I mean, we went through it, right?
yeah,
I mean, we were, um, you know, I don't know what we would have done, but I do think that the third record would have been special. But I think people who know those records, they know sort of part of the story. And I think, the band, if you came to see the band and you saw us a few times maybe, and you got a sense of who, I mean, it was a good live band, a very good live band. And so now we're going to prove it because we're gonna we're about to make a bunch of recordings available of a lot of shows, and
oh, okay.
they tell the other half of the story, and it's really like I've been listening to these things, and Shannon was a true star, and when you hear it, it's clear. There's a show that I just listened to from Edmonton, or no, what was Saskatoon? Yeah,
Hmm.
and it was like 1993, and it was out off the hook. I mean, it was a great show, and there was all kinds of stuff happening, and every night Shannon made it different, and and you
Yeah,
just
I would
never knew
think
what
you've got
was
a
going to
lot to
happen.
choose from. I mean, it's not like you guys were, I'm guessing, going out and just repeating a set list every
No,
night the same
no,
ad
and when
nauseum,
you
right?
hear these shows, you're like, yep,
Very different every
yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, you changed it every night. But also like there are nights where it's like transcendent. There are nights where it's like, what the hell? But it really like, and these are board tapes, right? They're basically stereo mixes off of the front of house mixer, right? So it doesn't, the sound qualities vary, but it just doesn't matter. like you hear the performance and you hear Shannon and you're like, oh my God, this guy was like, I mean, it just kind of like took me aback, because I mean, I was obviously we were all there, and remember, I don't remember everything, but like remember his greatness very clearly, and but then listening back night after night, like in with perspective on it now, it blows me away.
Well, and I would think that the separation of years must help too. I mean, this is probably something you couldn't really have approached uh, 20 years ago.
We didn't know we had them until 3 years ago.
Oh, tell me the story of that. How did this?
Well, our manager at the time, Chris Jones, who managed us throughout, that era of our career, um, he he didn't know this, but he had moved from Los Angeles to Connecticut or something, and he ended up, he found a box in his garage during the pandemic, and I hadn't spoken to him in a few years, and he sent me a message and said, "Hey, I found these. What do let me know what to do." And so, and I do remember us doing this. Basically, our sound man would make these tapes on DATs and drop them in an envelope and mail them back to our manager in LA
Right.
while we were on the road over and over. And they just got put into a box, packed up, moved around with his stuff, and then he found them. And so, after all that time, these are DAT tapes, ADATs, like digital audio
Mhm.
tapes early. So like we were concerned about quality, or like, had the tapes,
Right.
deteriorated to the point where if you try to play them, they'll be destroyed. So, you end up baking them in an oven, believe it or not,
Hmm.
and which blows me away. And they were salvaged.
Yeah.
And so we recorded probably 80% of our live shows.
Wow.
Wow. So are you
So we have
thinking
a
of putting out full shows or kind of a
Oh
live
yeah,
compilation
and
or a
soon they're
box or?
coming
we
out
just did
soon.
a deal. We just did a deal with a company called Nugs.com. So some of these recordings that Rogers is
Nugs.net.
talking
Yeah,
no, sorry, Nugs.net. We
yeah,
will be releasing those. I don't know the release date, but that's what he's talking about. These are some of the
yeah.
recordings that will. We also
But
have
like, I mean,
many more.
Nugs.net is sort of a big deal amongst like,
Yes.
they do all the Pearl Jam shows. They have all
Right.
the Dead content, Fish, and all these like, they have the archives of a lot of groups, and it's a fabulous app. And if you're a fan of any of those groups, so they have a
Mhm.
lot of stuff on there. It's
Say
really
that
valuable.
website again.
Nugs.
Nugs.net.
That's like
This guy's
Nugs
Mark's
dot.
already
Yeah. Hey, I'm
getting
still a
ready to
fan,
download
man,
them all.
I'm still a
Mark,
fan.
go, text me on the side. I'll get you a discount code.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, boss. All right. It's paying
5%
off.
off if
Yeah,
you buy
I honestly don't know what it's going to look like. I've seen the app and I think
the
it's
whole
brilliant.
set.
But I'm just excited that because people really only know half of that story, right? It's like you have those studio records and that kind of tells you, oh, the band was good, but like it was not. You had to see, you had to hear the thing because we were changing it. Like it morphed into something a lot different by the time we got to your town, basically.
Big time.
And I know you did some shows just in the last year. Are there more live gigs coming or?
Don't know.
Rogers and I
Uh-huh.
are doing. Rogers and I are playing with our good buddy Danny Clinch. Danny Clinch and the Hitchhikers at South by Southwest coming up. So I'm gonna see Rogers next
Yeah, that's
next
like next
Wednesday.
week, dude. That's
Yeah,
like
man.
next week. You better start getting ready. But
I'm starting. I'm gonna start learning the songs tonight.
Uh-huh. All right.
So yeah,
And you've got some
that's
shows
what
coming up,
Rogers and I got.
Marshall, right?
I ran into Daniel Lanois in an alleyway in Toronto, producer Danny Lanois, and I dropped your names like, "Hey, we got mutual friends," because wasn't he on a couple of Danny Clinch songs too?
Yeah, and I'm on Dan Lanois' piano record. I got a drum credit. I played drums on Dan Lanois' piano record that came out a couple years ago.
Nice.
It's all
So yeah,
coming together.
I'm already reaping the rewards of dropping names. But no,
Uh,
one thing I wanted to say about my fandom of Blind Melon was, and actually in my first conversation with Christopher, I looked up the producers that were involved and thought maybe that was the avenue to pursue, because the two albums are so great. The two Blind Melon albums are so great, but they're also so very different. So when I was talking with Christopher, and I know in all the videos you see Christopher's the guy playing six different guitars and mandolin and all that too. So I basically asked him like, who's responsible for my two favorite albums, kind of thing. So that was, in my having to find Christopher, and I'm not, I forget if the producers that from your albums are even around anymore, are they? Or
No,
Andy
Well,
Wallace is still
Andy's
around,
still
yeah.
honestly,
around.
those records are just produced from the five of us being in the room. I have to say, the
that's what I gathered, yeah.
producers
I
we
mean,
worked
set
with
up the
were very
mics.
were
Yeah.
very hands off, and I think we were very strong-willed 20-year-old men that like you weren't going to tell us what to do. So those records just sound like us. I mean, not to discredit the producer because the producer still gets you to the finish line, right? So that's they get some credit, but it
But
was
Andy
Especially,
was
I mean,
always more of a
Andy,
mixer
yeah.
anyway, right, than a producer,
Andy
so per se.
Wallace was
Yeah,
like that. I mean, Andy Wallace was an absolute scientist, like in
yeah.
terms of audio
technician.
engineering.
Yeah.
And so like just like getting sounds up and but no one really talked to us or really even tried to talk to us about our
No.
song arrangements or
Uh,
how we were performing them or really much of anything. I think we presented well in that regard, like
yeah.
straight up, like this is
Yeah.
how this goes, and like and like if you're like it is what it is. Like I also think that we were kind of a unconventional in our choices in that way, and so
Hmm.
if you're going to throw a monkey wrench in that, you better damn sure know how it's going to end up. And
Yeah.
I think people got scared of it a little bit in that way. It was like, how do you interject into this weird, arrangement and try to fix it, and
Yeah.
whatever.
Totally. It just
So
is what it is.
yeah, so like I mean, we could set the band up in a room and play those songs like that. And so I think producers hear that and they're like, well, fuck, there it is. Let's record
Just
that.
don't get in the way. 'Cause that's their job
Yeah,
is to basically not
we
get
had
in
a
the way.
strong identity. We had a very strong identity. We knew what we were. We knew we were figuring it out at the same time, but we knew what we were figuring out, and we're sort of like nobody's going to fuck with that
Yeah.
All right, guys.
at
Well, I
that
think
stage.
that'll.
Now, of course, after like two more failed albums, we would have gotten Diane Warren to come in and write us a few hits, and
Some power
Totally.
ballads and yeah, okay, I see it. You
Totally.
would have been soundtracking a Matt Damon space
it
movie
was
kind of
more of a
thing.
sound. It's like
Uh-huh.
there's a sound going on here that's
Yeah,
sort of dependent on the five people that are doing it. It's like you couldn't just like insert another guitar player and it'd be anything like
right.
it was.
No, it's lightning in a
It's just
bottle.
yeah, it was that kind of thing. So we weren't interchangeable. Everyone sort of had an iron in the fire in terms of the songwriting. And so it was really sort of five brains working on that problem, and another one wasn't going to make it any better, you know.
Right. Well, all right, guys. I think that's all I've got. So I will let you guys all get back to your relative, whatever you got going on today, and say thanks very much for your time,
Thank
and
you.
thanks a lot for this album.
Thank you.
It's fantastic,
Agree.
Well, thanks
and we'll see you
Thanks for
somewhere
spreading the
down the
love. I
road.
appreciate it. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot,
yeah.
guys. I'll see you
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
all.
guys. Take care. Be well.